Hi, I'm Catherine Morgan. I'm the founder of the Depression Discussions and Point A to Point B Transitions. And today I'm so excited to speak with Pam Slim. Pam was actually very instrumental in my escape from Cubicle Nation when my coach at Deloitte recommended that I read it before I start my business because there was a lot I needed to learn about going out on my own. So you've been a virtual mentor of mine long before I had the pleasure of actually meeting you. And now in my current business, helping entrepreneurs transition to employee or corporate employee to corporate employee. But your book body of work has been a big effect on my life. So I'm so excited to talk to you about it today.
I'm so happy to be here, truly.
I'm seeing something that I know you can speak directly to. I'm seeing and I'm hearing a lot of shame around entrepreneurs who, for whatever reason, leave their business and want to get corporate jobs. And they may have even sold their business and had an exit, or the market, may have changed and their service wasn't able to be profitable anymore, or their family situation may have changed. But there's this, when they come in, they're just like, feeling terrible about this decision to look for a corporate job versus starting another business. And I know this is something that you covered in depth in Body of Work, and I was hoping you would be willing to talk about it.
Absolutely. It actually was one of the main reasons why I wrote Body of Work, is because after doing about 11 years or so of the early stage startup with Escape from Cubicle Nation, prior to that, I had been a consultant to large companies. And so I was really working with companies to help make them great places to work where employees would want to stay, and coaching people how to be better managers and so forth. And then I had a happy and successful corporate career. So I realized people feel like that doesn't make sense for me to write Escape from Cubicle Nation. But that's kind of historically where it is that I've come from. So I didn't enter into entrepreneurship from the perspective of saying that everything about corporate is terrible, because I had really fantastic experiences. And as many people as I did meet that were in corporate that wanted to leave and start a business, which was what inspired me to start the blog initially, Escape from Cubicle Nation, which then turned into the book. But there were also other people who were like, I really enjoy the structure of a corporate setting, and I really want to make it work. Maybe I want to have it better, because as we know that any work mode, working for somebody else or working for yourself, has some inherent challenges, risks, design flaws, right? And things that can be difficult. And so I would have the same conversations that you are having with your clients, where I would be working with somebody who might have thought they had the idea that they wanted to start on their own. They would have had a side hustle, which is usually how it is that I coach people to not just take the leap. And then in getting in that experience, either something sometimes happens with the time and the economy that you're launching your business in.
Yes.
I always say tomorrow is actually 22 years, my 22-year anniversary of working for myself.
Wow.
And I started in 1996 in the Bay Area, primarily in tech in Silicon Valley. And that was a very good time to be a consultant. There was so much growth. It was such a positive, optimistic time. And I remember around 99, 2000, when we had the bubble burst, it was a totally different environment. So I can sit back and say, hey, I'm a genius. I quit my job right away. I had higher paying work, which is true. I did immediately make more than I made as an employee. But I think part of it has to do with the timing of what it is that was happening in the economy. So part of what I would really encourage folks to be thinking about is that, first of all, we sometimes don't realize the kind of conditions that are impacting our success. And I actually did an attitudinal segmentation study of small business owners, looking at attitudes people have toward obstacles. Oh. I did it in partnership with my friend Susan Beyer, who does research in attitudinal segmentation. And there actually is a segment of people attitudinally that will say, like, the problems that I have in my business not only feel overwhelming, but they're all because it's really my fault, because I didn't do my job. And that is a very difficult place to be, where you might assume entire responsibility for some things that may be outside of your control, right? What's happening in the economy, a whole number of other factors.
Right.
And so that, I think, is one important part to realize, is that things happen. It's very difficult to be successful in business. And also that when we're often looking at examples around us of people who we admire, who we assume, are doing really well.
Right.
Again, my benefit of being a coach for 25 years,
Right.
Even before it is that I went out on my own, is I know that everybody has their stuff behind the curtains.
Me too.
The
Every
view that
single
is
person.
right, like the view that's shown, I don't care who it is, right, is very often can mask sometimes very significant issues that somebody might have. So maybe there are a lot more challenges than you realized, where people sacrifice so much in order to have the big payout or success that ended up, destroying their marriage. Sometimes people live with things like mental illness or depression or other things, which is part of their life, right? And part of the structure,
For sure.
where they might have financial success, but right, as you and I talked about, it can actually be, some challenges just kind of to live and walk in their life. So those, I think, are things where ultimately we're not, the way I tend to assess and view things is where really what we're looking for is like deep, meaningful, significant work. We're going to do everything we can to make wise decisions, right? Like money is awesome. I love it. I love it when I'm successful, when my clients are successful.
Right.
But it's also where you can have the presence of mind to know that enjoying your work while you're doing it, seeing the impact and meaning that it has, recognizing that at different stages of life you might have different levels of contribution, are all part of really what lead to work-life success and happiness.
Right. Some of what I'm finding is, this rah-rah about entrepreneurism being the right way to work, the best way to work. If you're a very highly skilled technician, your technical skills are excellent, you should go on your own. And maybe they're seen as more valuable if you're on your own. I think there's a lot of nonsense going around about entrepreneurship being the one way, the right way. Can you speak to that?
I totally agree. I mean, first of all, if we look at like a healthy economic ecosystem, it has a whole combination of different types of large companies, mid-sized, small companies. We have academia, we have government, nonprofit, right? All these sectors that make up parts of our economy that in many ways, having the diversity of different things, one helps feed the other. And I do find it funny, like just imagine for a second that every single one of us said that we all just want to work for ourselves. First of all, if we're going to grow our company, who are we going to hire? Because nobody's going to ever want to work for somebody else. And also very often in this ecosystem, like I work with individual business owners, but I also work with large brands that serve small business owners, right? And so without them in the ecosystem, it would be very hard for me to be making the full living that I need to be supporting my learning lab and my family and my financial needs. So it's an incomplete, like when you really just stop for a second and think about it, it doesn't really make sense to say that, everybody in an economy would just be working one way. The one thing I will say from a pragmatic perspective is I do love it where at least each person, even if your preference is not to work for somebody else, is not to work for yourself, would be that you do understand what you would need to do if you had to do it. So either for you to be a contractor, for you to, make money organizing garages or whatever, because I've just seen far too much in my professional career where, thriving businesses like totally crash, or very solid corporate positions go away seemingly in an instant because there's a big merger or whatever it is. So I like it where people are able to understand what's involved. I would kind of love for like each person, almost each kid in school or in college, to have like a side hustle education where they'd know how to do it. But for some people, by their temperament and their working style, do not function the best working for themselves. So it's not something that just naturally fits everybody.
Well, one size never fits all. Any woman who's ever bought clothing will tell you that, one size fits very few.
Yes.
You talk about work modes, and people, professionals may float in and out of freelancing or corporate or starting their own business necessarily throughout their career. Can you add a little bit to that?
So it's, again, part of why I wrote Body of Work, because I saw that we have still the traditional view of careers where we have a career ladder. So you stay in a certain company or industry where you just progress in terms of leadership and compensation. That's kind of the way we're trained to look at it. In the entrepreneur track, we're trained to say, you start your company, you get investment, you scale, you sell it to Google, whatever the view is. And the fact is that many people, by force and or by choice,
Right.
at different stages of life, can choose to work in different environments. For some people, it's because they're what Emily Wapnick calls a multi-potentialite, where they actually like to do different things because they get bored, right? That may be you.
This girl.
You get bored by, doing the same thing all the time. Others can be situations like, there's significant kind of things happening within your industry, and so you might be laid off. For some people, it involves, having children or having some type of an illness and, needing or wanting to slow down. There's just all kinds of.
Yeah, in my case, a lot of times it's elder care issues because my folks are in their 40s and 50s. And if they have, a parent with dementia or having to get family members into assisted living or, a lot of, I didn't get that manual. Like what, I don't understand that manual, but a lot of people are struggling helping a parent through end of life. They have to drop out of full-time career work for a while necessarily to do the right thing for their family member or what they feel is the right thing.
It's right. And sometimes you're in that sandwich position where also your kids are at the age where they're getting ready to go to college, or they're in college, or they're teenagers. So one thing I have learned over the years working with so many thousands of people is that everybody is wired differently. So there's not one right way to be, there's not one right motivation, but you need to decide for you what is important. And one thing that I wish for everybody, because I think my biggest underlying motivation, and I call it my root in Body of Work,
Right.
is about having economic stability and really having the peace of mind that comes from knowing that you're able to take care of yourself and your family no matter what. Like, I really truly wish that for every person on earth, right? That we all have that feeling, no matter circumstance, no matter choices that we've made, no matter our backgrounds, because I think that just lends to us being able to exhale a bit and participate in community and in the economy in a different way. And so knowing that, I know whenever I see news stories sometimes about, there's a big layoff in this industry, and they tell this, very sad story of somebody who has a master's degree in communication and, is in some ways, living in really dire situation.
Right.
I sit back and I think, oh my gosh, like, you have a master's in communication. Do you realize that there are all these sites where you could be signing up to do flexible work, where you could be working for people all over the world like I do? Right. Through Zoom or doing freelance projects.
Yep.
There actually are the opportunities for people to do things differently, but many people are not aware of the different kind of work modes. And even, that term is one that not everybody understands. So what I mean can be, you can be in an employee engagement, in an employee structure working for a corporation, or you might work for a university and you could either be like a part-time faculty, or you could be a tenure track professor that has a different, type of mode. Right. You could be a contractor for a company, which essentially in many ways feels like you're an employee, but you're not paid benefits, and but you have some consistency in project. Right. Totally different from being a freelancer, where you need to be out there hustling a whole bunch of different people in order to be getting work. And then there's some interesting things that I've seen a lot, and I know I experienced it when I was a consultant. I call it an unofficial confederation, where when I was living in the Bay Area, we had probably a group of about 20 extended folks that were all consultants, and we were all on the human side of business. So, I was the training and development person. We had the comp and benefits, right? Somebody specializing in employee relations. And when one of us would go in and talk to clients to get a project, if the client had the bigger needs, we would just kind of make the call, right, to some of the folks in our unofficial confederation. And even though we would all be paid differently, paid independently, we could have this kind of flexible pod where we were able to really be sharing work a lot more effectively. So there's just all kinds of ways that you can think about working.
That is so smart. What I also talk to people is your concept of a job portfolio, which is actually what I've sort of done with my business, because I still work for Carol Roth, part of the time. So, and then I have my own business. I think a lot of, especially solo professionals, have various revenue streams that keeps stability. It also keeps me accountable. Like on the days when I wouldn't do my own stuff, I know that Carol stuff can't slip. So once I'm in motion doing Carol stuff, my stuff magically gets done.
Which I love. I call it the stable Mabel and the steady Eddies, right? And you can tell Carol I said hi. She's a great person, and professional to work with. But this can be where, because you want to make sure that you have some kind of a stable revenue coming through, that you might have some kind of contracts that are a little bit differently structured. And again, it could be in certain cases that you could be paid as a part-time employee, or it could be all done like as an independent contractor. But these are opportunities that we have, and it's about, at different times, different levels of importance that we have.
Thank you. That is exactly the point I wanted to get across, that there's just no right way. Entrepreneurship isn't great having to take a corporate job or wanting to take a corporate job, because, by the way, you like structures and you like process and you don't like the risk and you don't like being the CEO and the janitor, and that's just fine.
Yes. Exactly. Well, and when I had a client I was just working with recently, where she's amazing. She's an amazing coach, just incredible at her craft. And, it's not easy. There's a lot of coaches out there in the market. And so we were working hard. She was having traction, but like not the amount that she wanted. And so part of, in doing that business definition, we were looking at, well, what, describe the ideal situation in terms of who you've been working for and what amount of revenue you get, et cetera. And then lo and behold, like something just kind of came across her desk where it was like, this is a position working for a company doing exactly what she wanted, coaching people, but getting a steady, very healthy paycheck. And she is so happy, and as a coach, I am so happy for her, because she's getting what she wants without the kind of stress of working for somebody else. I mean, of working for herself, having to shake the trees, as I say, to get everything worked out. You see my son dancing in the background, so this is real life.
I was talking to our friend Barry Moltz, and both of us said, if we could get paid in corporate to do what we do, we'd do it in a heartbeat. And Barry's like, I'm essentially unemployable right now. I'm like, well, I am probably too, but if Deloitte would pay me, I'd go back.
That's right. It's like, keep your options open, because what matters is that you're highly engaged in the work, you enjoy what you're doing, you make the impact that you want to make, and just know you have flexibility. And there is no reason to have shame around decisions that you make about employment, right? You get to decide what you need to do for yourself and your family. And I'm not saying at all that everybody who appears successful is, inflating truth and all of that. That's not true. There are some extremely happy, successful, amazing people out there. But there also is a lot of posturing where you might assume that people are actually happier or more financially successful than they really are. And just, and even if they are and everything is great and it looks perfect, you are who you are, and there's no way you can be them. Like, you just need to be living within your own reality. And the more you claim that, and the more that you're proud of that, really just claim responsibility for your own life and your choices. It's just a much happier, healthier way to live.
Now, there's something we can raise a fist to. Absolutely.
That's right.
The rallying cry. All
That's
right.
right.
Pam, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me about this. I really appreciate it.
It's my great pleasure.
Thank you.